Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June 21st regular meeting of the Temple City Council. Glad to have all of you here today. I don't see that. You're going to do the prayer for us tonight? All right.
You can sing it. You sing so well.
You're going to sing for us?
You can sing.
Please stand.
Let's pray, please. Father, we bow before you in the beautiful and the glorious name of Jesus this evening. Father, we thank you for the beauty of the rain that has been our privilege today. And Father, we come tonight and we ask you to bless this meeting of the City Council. Father, that this business would be your business. And Father, that the things that are done here tonight, Lord, would honor you. So Lord, I thank you for this council, for Mayor Jones, for City Manager Blackburn. Father, we pray that you would bless Temple, Texas. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Reverend Parker, okay?
Not feeling well.
Do my best.
Thank you, sir.
And to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Zoe Roscoe.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for the prayer. Well, again, welcome. We've got a number of items to cover this evening, and so we'll get right into it. The first item is a presentation on the Tree City USA designation. Mr. Skora.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. About a year ago, and it's probably actually been longer than that, was on our work plan to look into the city becoming a tree city. And we sort of started on that as a department, and then this young lady from Keep Temple Beautiful, Zoe Roscoe, called me and said, hey, we got an idea. We want to become a tree city. So we sort of merged forces, and Zoe took the lead. And actually, we're going to have a presentation shortly, and she's going to do it. And in my opinion, she deserves a lot of credit for Temple becoming a tree city. She put a lot of time and effort into it and worked with us as a staff to get the work done we needed to do it. About April, we received the recognition, but we wanted to wait until we received all the signage and the flags. And I don't know if you noticed when you were in town today, but we do have two signs up now, one on Central and one on 3rd, designating the city as a tree city, and we're probably going to buy a couple others for entranceways in. And we have put a flag up at the flagpole out here at Adams and Maine, right below the American flag. So we're very proud of it and accomplished it. And again, Keep Temple Beautiful and Zoe deserve much of the credit for getting us there. And we have a little presentation. I'm going to ask Zoe to come up and to go through that. And we have a presentation we'd like to make to you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Ken. I knew I should have gone first. I just want to take you through a few quick slides, tell you about, this is one of my favorite slides. This is a Weldon Cannon postcard that at least 1911 or before, Temple declared itself a tree city. And here, lo, these many years later, it's a nationally official. I just want to real quickly go through, there are 4 standards for becoming a Tree City USA. This is done through the National Arbor Day Foundation, and everyone has to meet these standards. First standard is you have to have an Arbor Day event and proclamation, and we have a number of organizations, the Temple Garden Club, Keep Temple Beautiful, different ones every year, or more than one, have a Arbor Day event, so we meet that criteria. Oh, there you go. See, I hate this thing. Thank you. The second standard is that you must budget $2 per capita on trees, but this includes, we have a tree farm. You know that I am just so proud that a town our size has a tree farm, and I credit Ken with kind of getting that going. And it's a tree farm, any trimming, maintenance, fertilization that goes on trees, so we easily met that. I want you to get him a new one of these. I think it's like a big lighter. Okay, the third standard is a tree board or tree department. We have a little of both. You recall you did a tree ordinance that established a tree board. We also have a forestry department, so to speak. Val Roaming, our park superintendent, has had training and is now certified as an arborist, which I think is really great for a town this size. We've got a lot invested as a city in trees, either through our parks or street landscaping and our tree farm, and it's good that we have got somebody that is trained and can manage all of that. The tree board responsibilities, a lot's going to be public education, and a lot of the issues around trees is all about education. Develop some planning and work with the city departments on city trees. Next. Thank you. All right, just wanted to put up the names of the tree board. You also have selected those, and they'll be meeting before too long to start their work in the city of Temple, and we're real pleased to have a number of these folks actually worked in the development of the tree ordinance that also got us where we are. Next, Alan, thank you. And the last standard is a tree ordinance, and it's about mostly city trees, what the city does with city trees, and making sure that we're handling it right. It will improve the quality of life. You know, the strategic goals talk a lot about the quality of life, and most of us feel that the beauty of trees really does enhance that, and so we want to try to work with that. And then, as Kim mentioned, this morning, the signs went up and the flags went up, and that was really pretty exciting to see that. And just as a reminder, you are designated as a Tree City USA annually. So each year, we have to meet the same 4 standards, and so we will keep up and make sure that we do the things we need to so that we can be a Tree City every year. And lastly, we'd like to, we have a plaque that we also received from the Arbor Day Foundation that we'd like to officially present to the mayor.
Oh, awesome.
Temple, Tree City USA.
Put that up.
Next to the postcard. Thank you.
Excellent. Oh, is that what, oh, okay. All right. Have to fix our sign. Good. Well, thank you very much for that presentation, and congratulations to all of us on that designation. But again, as Ken said, thanks so much to Zoe. I know how much you put into it, and all the coordination. A lot of people worked to help make it happen. But thank you for being point person on it and making sure it got done. So thank you. Next item on the agenda is an opportunity for public comment. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may sign up to do so prior to the meeting. Public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. No discussion or final action will be taken by the council. First signed up to speak tonight is Ms. Betty Elliott. Good evening, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I really just came to observe tonight until I drove up. Then I got agitated, as I did earlier this week, with the city employees parking on either side of the municipal building. Since we no longer have a drive-up for the water department, it is very hard to get in and out to pay our bills. I know we can mail them in. There's another 50 cents, you know, what the heck. But I think that the city employees should park out here in the lot that has been designated for them. And if they're found parked out here at the side or in front, fine them. You know, a couple fines and they won't park there anymore unless they make a heck of a lot more money than I do. Thank you. Have a good week.
Next signed up is Mayor Pro Tem Mark Tyrock.
Hello, Alan. Bruce Walker, I want to say thank you, and this group of gentlemen say thank you also. I want you to know that 2 weeks ago they started laying the speed humps on Forest Trail, and all the neighbors came out because of the noise in the street, and they got all excited, and they started clapping, and I ran in and got my camera, and I got them to pose. And the next one is...
That's the only one I have.
Okay. We have Earl Stoliker in the other picture, and I want you to know it's very obvious that these individuals were making sure that they were following the lead of Mr. Stoliker. But again, I want to say thank you. The neighbors are very happy on Forest Trail and on Pin Oak. So, Mr. Butcher, thanks again.
Martha. Next item on the agenda, item 4, is a public hearing. Conduct a final public hearing and consider adopting a resolution approving the 2007-2008 action plan and community development block grant budget. Ms. Bernard?
It's Mr. Gary Traylor with Traylor and Associates is here tonight to present the budget and the action plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Welcome, Mr. Traylor.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much. The item that you have on your agenda here tonight represents the fifth and final opportunity for citizen input or comments into the 2007 action plan. There was a more lengthy presentation made to the council on the proposed program of activities at your council meeting in May. So really tonight, the only thing there is to do is to determine if there are any citizens here to question or comment on the action plan, and then to adopt the resolution authorizing its submission to HUD.
Great. Thank you, Mr.
You bet.
So this ends the 30-day comment period? Or?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, so
Yes,
now
sir,
we
it
have
does.
public hearing. Okay, great. Council, are there any questions that you have for Mr. Traylor before we go into public hearing? Ms. Bernard, any comments, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. This item does require a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on the CDBG plan and budget for 2007-2008, please come forward and state your name and address for the record prior to your comments. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. And council?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2007-2008 action plan and community development block grant budget for 2007-2008. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tyler.
Aye.
Councilmember Loomis.
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Mr. Traylor, thank you very much for the work.
Thank you very much.
Next item is the consent agenda, item 5. Item 5A through, looks like K tonight. And all items listed under this section consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council, may be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by the council, any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of a council member, and it will be considered separately. Council, are there any items that you wish removed for independent consideration or presentation? If there's none, I'll entertain a motion on item 5.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve items 5A through K. There's no discussion. Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tyler.
Aye.
Councilmember Loomis.
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Next items on the agenda, items 6 through 11 are related in the action that's required. The presentations should be somewhat similar. They'll be site-specific. But Mr. Dolan, if we could ask you if you would pull all these together, and we'll, unless the council wishes to do differently, take action on these items together.
Be happy to. You have a series of zoning cases and public hearings that we're going to follow for some properties that are planned for industrial use, and they're all shown to be part of the industrial park areas. The different numbers that you see in front of you for the 30s, et cetera, show the different parcels that are going to be part of your zoning tonight, and then those are just the zoning case numbers. But again, you've got one that's approximately 143 acres there off Moores Mill Road. You also have one that is approximately 28 acres, a little bit over 28 acres. They're up off Moores Mill Road again. And then coming in the same general vicinity, an almost 88-acre parcel. And then again in the same vicinity, a 76, almost 77-acre parcel. And then moving down towards the southern part of the town, you've got close to a 25-acre parcel. And then again, back up in the industrial park area, a 98-acre parcel. And these cases have all been reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, recommended for their unanimous approval from their meeting June the 4th. This is the first reading of the ordinances. The public hearing needs to be followed for all of them. There were some letters that were sent back, all in support of the different zoning cases. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that the council has. Ask that if you did collectively consider them in a public hearing, to consider them as a separate motion and a second for each individual case, unless you choose to just try to do it collectively.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolan. Council, any questions, any particular areas you have a question on? This is all zoning change from agriculture to light industrial, several areas of the city, southeast, north industrial park, Avenue H area, in the Enterprise Park area. If there are no questions on any of these specifically, we will go into the public hearing phase. And again, we can take all of these together. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. If there is any particular parcel that you'd like a further presentation on prior to making your comments, we'd certainly be glad to do that. And if you have a comment about any particular one, if you'd be specific as to which item it is that you'd like to comment on. So we'll declare the public hearing open. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearings closed on items 6 through 11. And council, it is your pleasure whether we take these collectively or as a group. Items 6 through 11, a motion and a second.
Mayor, I'd like to take these collectively, 6 through 11, and motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second for the approval from agriculture to light industrial district on all of these items, 6 through 11. Mr. Graham, I did not read all of these into the record. Should I do that prior to the motion, or prior to action on the motion?
I think with the reference to the item numbers and the description on the notice, I think that's it.
All right. Very good. That being the case, if there's no discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tara?
Aye.
Councilmember Lanning? Aye. Mayor Jones?
Aye. Next item on the agenda will be item 12. This is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending the thoroughfare plan to realign a portion of the collector known as Hartrick Bluff Road, south of Waters Dairy Road and north of Allen Way. Mr. Phil.
And again, Mayor, what you have in front of you this evening is a request to amend the thoroughfare plan as you described for the area shown in the aerial with the circle for this area just along Hartrick Bluff Road south of Waters Dairy. For a discussion that has been brought up in previous discussions with the rezoning of a certain property, there was some chronology that we wanted to provide the council as far as the platting and the history of the area. The estates of Fires Creek along the southern portion of Hartrick Bluff Road was platted in 2003. You reviewed a final plat for Stonegate 1, which actually created a resolution as part of its exceptions when you reviewed the final plat. And again, later on in '05, there was the second phase of Stonegate approved. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed a preliminary plat for the area to be described as Hidden Villages, which is not on your agenda this evening, but had just to be able to give you some type of chronology for the platting. But what you do have in front of you this evening is to be able to take a look at the thoroughfare plan, which is a part of the comprehensive plan that was approved in 1989. The purple shaded road is a collector-sized road, which is 60 feet of right-of-way and with a 36 feet of pavement at a minimum width, with a design speed between 30 and 35 miles per hour. Again, the center line radius, when you look at this bottom of the PowerPoint slide, for the 375 feet center line radius, those are just more of a meandering curve to be allowed the vehicular speed to be able to go through that. The slide that's enlarged here shows the blue dashed lines showing what would be the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation for the thoroughfare plan amendment to essentially reflect or mirror the current alignment for Hartrick Bluff Road. What is shown is a resolution, and it says route, but it was just a resolution that was part of the Stonegate 1 approval. Let's see if I can go back. And then the original design, or the current alignment shown in purple for the current design on the thoroughfare plan. Thoroughfare plan is a guide to be used in the review for any zoning case or any preliminary plat for the design of an area. And it's essentially what would essentially eventually turn into what would be a preliminary plat and essentially a final plat for the area. The slide in front of you this evening that shows the design or the route for Hartwick Bluff Road, the green ovals just show those points of ingress and egress for either existing or planned subdivisions that the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council has reviewed. And so the collector-sized road will provide many points of ingress and egress from FM 93 all the way up to Canyon Creek. And it does show 31st and 5th on either side of it, which are planned as minor arterials. Again, when this project went through the Planning and Zoning Commission, the middle slide shows you what staff had recommended, but the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the option on the right. The option in the middle was one that to be able to try to more accurately reflect the resolution that was approved back in 2004. These are just some enlarged views of the 3 exhibits that were submitted by the applicant for the Hartwick Bluff Road. All these roads do not meet the centerline radius of the 375 feet as currently required for collector-sized roads per the thoroughfare plan. This is the Exhibit D, which was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Through the review and research of the road, this is getting into much greater detail than what you have on the thoroughfare plan amendment, but these were some ideas to be able to take a look at what potentially could happen out there as the property develops. But the recommendation from staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission is to approve an amendment to the thoroughfare plan. Staff recommended to approve one that more adequately reflects the resolution done in 2004. The Planning and Zoning Commission, again, at its June 4th meeting, recommended approval of the exhibit that was described as Exhibit D that was submitted by Turley and Associates. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that the council has regarding the thoroughfare plan amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Dolan. If you go back to that diagram D that you showed, that's coming as a recommendation from Planning and Zoning. I think that's it. And then, well, then, was it the next slide that then showed, there you go, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. You know, there's certainly some, well, there's great concern from the council relative to speeds and safety there. I think this was not the original staff recommendation as a result of the fact that it doesn't meet collector design standards, and so I think the speed issue is not only a safety issue from the design standpoint, but just from a practical standpoint, the safety for our citizens. There are some options available to us for ways to slow the traffic down through that S turn. And could you cover those a little bit with us and some of the things that have been proposed? And where I'm going with this is I would like for us, if at all possible, ask Mr. Graham for some guidance on this, and Mr. Blackburn, is to incorporate specifically into this thoroughfare plan motion, should it be the council's desire, to incorporate some of these traffic calming devices or some type of assurance that we can get the safe speeds through this area in the motion as we adopt this plan.
There were 2 options that had been looked at. Was the idea of using the traffic circles, and that was essentially to be able to usher traffic either traveling north or south to be able to be aware of the curve that's coming there, and essentially to be able to slow the traffic down without essentially installing either some type of signal device or sign device. This has been used in other parts of Texas and also in other parts of the United States and also internationally. But what staff had looked at was the idea of the 60-foot right-of-way to be able to use some type of 50-foot radius circle to be able to try to mitigate traffic as it proceeds up and down south of Watersbury or coming north or south along FM 93. The other thing that had been looked at was a possible review of a revised alignment for Hartford Bluff Road. But again, while you're not approving the exact alignment or these improvements to the road, this had been looked at to try to ensure as much vehicular safety as possible with the development of the road. Just for the sake of discussion, the collector-sized road, this road will be widened to at least 36 feet, and to try to seek as close to the 375-foot centerline radius for not. And if that doesn't meet, then if a plat did come forward, exceptions would have to be requested associated with those radii.
At what point in time, Mr. Blackburn, do you think we'll be coming forward with an item to improve Hartford Bluff? Is this something that we've got in the 07-08 budget, or is it further out than that?
It's, I think, currently further out than 07-08 in terms of CIP projects. I don't think I've got currently anyway, a CIP project related to Hartford Bluff.
I think the council, certainly my concern, I won't speak for the council on this one, but my concern is that whatever we discuss here today, we don't lose it like we did the last intent of the council to realign and make changes to Hartford Bluff Road to begin to address these issues. And I know we don't, the current staff here there was no one here that was a part of that, so don't need to beat anybody up over that. But from the standpoint of the engineering department or planning department. So what can we do, Mr. Dolan, Mr. Graham, Mr. Blackburn, to assure that we get some of these safety features incorporated into Hartford Bluff?
I'll jump out there first and let Mr. Graham have rebuttal. I think what's before you tonight is an amendment or consideration of amending your thoroughfare plan, which by definition and by working by practicality, your thoroughfare plan is a conceptual document. It lays out conceptual alignments of roads. I don't think it's intended to provide you with final design or final schematics or final build-out technical specifications relating to those roads, either in terms of specific locations or footprints, down to the foot per se, or the traffic design features that may accompany those roads as those are built out. Now, that said, I do think it's certainly not inappropriate, I don't believe, for you to offer comments from the dais in terms of design features, design considerations, or traffic considerations and issues that you'd like to see addressed relating to the roads. And again, I think from a staff standpoint, I don't think there's any question in our mind that the thoroughfare plan needs to be amended. It does not reflect what was an intent of several years ago, and it certainly doesn't reflect the current subdivisions that are already in place there, as well as ones that are proposed or might be moving forward. So we certainly, I think, are in agreement with that. And I think any guidance the council could offer in terms of specific issues that you'd like to see addressed, we certainly take those into consideration as we move forward with, again, final design and as we work with developers on trying to make that road as safe as possible. With that, I'll yield to Mr. Graham.
And I think I would agree with everything that David just said. I think the important thing to keep in mind is that plans, thoroughfare plans, they are conceptual, they're general in nature. Typically, we don't try to show the exact location of a road. What we generally show is the relative size of the road. Is it going to be an arterial, collector, that kind of thing, and the general location as an aid to guiding development in that area, so they know the general location where the road's going to be. And I also agree that it's really not a place to put in the plan a lot of specific design criteria, like we want a certain radius even, or traffic calming devices or something in the plan itself. I think those kind of things are addressed during the planning process. And if you think how this issue kind of arose back in 2004, kind of came to the front, was you approve a plan that shows a general location for a road and the size of the road as a collector or arterial. Someone comes forward with a plat to develop in that area, and then you have to decide, is it in conformance with that? If it is, you have to prove it. If it isn't in some respect, they can either, they risk having it disapproved, or they can ask for an exception for it, and I think that's what happened in 2004. So if you adopt some change to the plan and you change the general location for this, a future plat that's going through that area is going to have to conform to that or seek an exception. And at that level of detail in the plat, then you get into things like the radius of the road, design criteria, and I think the staff at that point is going to have a pretty good opportunity to weigh in on whether, it does meet the requirements of not just the plan, but all of our other design criteria. We've got standards for roads, we've got standards for curbs, and all the traffic visibility. So the specific design of those roads is going to have to meet all those, not just this plan showing a general location. I think in approving the plat, you'll be able to address some of these traffic calming, or whether it's speed or radiuses or other items, or how it crosses the railroad track. You can address that as part of the design of that plat, both at a preliminary stage and as a final plat.
Thank you. Council, other questions or comments?
Did I just understand you said you addressed the design of the road, of the collector street in the plat?
You're going to design, if you have concerns about, other than the general location of it, about the radius or traffic calming or some of the things that were presented at the workshop today, you can address those during the preliminary or final plat for that. I think it's a mistake to try to get too specific in the thoroughfare plan as to where exactly that road will be, or the
design features of it.
Yeah, the exact curve of the radius. We don't do that because we don't know if it's going to follow property lines. It may be 100 feet either direction, and so on. So but the important thing to keep in mind, I think, is that when that plat comes through, the design of it, it's got to meet not just this thoroughfare plan, but it's got to meet good engineering principles and our other standards for roads. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't meet our current criteria, then they're either going to have to modify their design or seek an exception to that. And I think there's some give and take in that process to satisfy the staff, so they could recommend approval of that it meets their safety concerns.
Very well said, Mr. Graham.
Other questions? If there are no other questions, this item does require a public hearing as well, so I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak before the council on this item, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Mayor and council members, I'm Victor Turley, 301 North 3rd. We made this presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission 5th, 6th, earlier this month.
June 4th.
June 4th, okay, thank you. And we had these very discussions, everything that we've talked about here. How are we going to align this roadway? This roadway, again, is part of the discussion that we had in planning and zoning, was the fact that the city has made several steps during this process, and this goes back to probably before '03. And in doing this, the city has to the north side, Stonegate 1, there was $6,000 or $7,000 as that subdivision's contribution to the roadway. Stonegate 2, same thing, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 was their contribution to the roadway. So the city of Temple now is in that process now, and whether that was the accepted method at that time for deciding whether what the contribution was going to be to each one of these subdivision. So at this point right now, the city of Temple is obligated for that street down to the railroad track. The city has the right-of-way over the way that planning and zoning had recommended to get you back to the crossing at that location. So we've laid out several different alignments for roadways. One of the key things, in our opinion, and I think a lot of people in that area would agree, the speed needs to be dropped dramatically. And I would recommend that we drop immediately, because this is going to take some time before this is actually built and installed. Also south of the creek, Estates of Friars Creek also contributed their portion as they did the platting. And that was the criteria that the city was using at that time. As all of you know, we have went through various stages of how do we assess that? Do we build it? How much money goes in to contribute to each one of these perimeter streets, as we speak of them, that don't go through the development. All the rest of the streets in both Stonegate 1 and 2, you see, are all built. The Allen Parkway goes all the way through. That's a 36-foot wide street connecting 31st over to Hartwick Bluff. Those are streets and thoroughfares that are done within the development. These are roadways that are on the edge of the property, and these are roadways that are existing now that will need improvement and widening. As you go on further, you had Windmill. Not Windmill. Wyndham Hills. Wyndham Hills. Pretty good chunk of road there. At that time, that contribution was zero to the city. So you've got some obligations along there that I believe call for us to, number one, slow this traffic down. There are many different ways that we can control the traffic. The 375-foot radius is based on the speed. Those are the two things that go. Once you lower the speed, then you change the radius. Those calming devices that we talked about and what I had shown you all in the workshop session are similar devices that we can separate the traffic. You want to have safety as one of the most important things. Our opinion is that we should install stop signs at the railroad track. Today, and I don't know if anyone knows, I've been asking around, have we had an accident on this Hartwick Bluff? Is anybody aware of a wreck? Cars? I mean, I don't know.
I in fact know one, but it
I know two.
particular.
Well, I would say the key thing is to slow it down. I think almost anybody that travels that, unless they're driving recklessly, really slows down. And I think that's the most important thing to this. I do believe that as Wyndham Hills develops, they're going to go to 5th Street. This is a circuitous method to get back to Waters Ferry. I just don't feel like that's going to happen. I think Stonegate 1, when it's fully developed, the tendency is going to go through and go to 31st or go on up, up to Waters Ferry. So we need to be cautious about it, but I think everything that I presented to you is a 36-foot wide street. We can widen it with medians to slow the traffic down, and this is what we'd propose, and we would ask that you would look at the planning and zoning recommendation and approve that recommendation that they have given you. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Turley, before you leave, I have to say thank you for the three things that you and I have talked about. Is that you looked at the street sight that you couldn't see down the street, and you looked at the safety and the speed, that all those three things needed to be addressed, and you've done that, and I want to say thank you, because I would rather do it now and look at that street alignment versus having several people killed and then say, why didn't we? So I want to say thank you, not only from a council member, but a citizen.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your efforts. The Planning and Zoning Commission spent a lot of time working on this too, and so did the staff. So it's a collective thing, and
Yeah.
we want to be careful about what we do with the street. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Anyone else wish to comment? Public hearing is open. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure on the alignment of the thoroughfare plan.
Motion to approve? Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the thoroughfare plan as presented and recommended to us in this presentation. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tyler?
Aye.
Councilmember Lehman? Aye. Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 13 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the revised preliminary plat of Country Lane Addition, 55.386 acre commercial and residential subdivision located at the northwest corner of Southeast H.K. Dodgen Loop and Martin Luther King Drive, subject to the applicant's requested exceptions to the subdivision ordinance, section 3393, regarding the maximum allowed cul-de-sac length of 500 feet for proposed River Hills Court and Pleasant Ridge Court. Mr. Dolan.
Again, Mayor and City Council, the revised preliminary plat you have in front of you this evening is to show the proposed single-family development that's going to be a part of the Country Lane addition. You had reviewed other plats for the proposed 102 units and then eventually 204 units there. But you can see the various land uses that are associated around the site. The plat that you have in front of you this evening is to consider the lots that are going to be planned along the road frontage for professional office uses, but the single-family subdivision with the various cul-de-sacs that are up in the upper left-hand corner of the proposed plat show two cul-de-sacs and then actually the extension of a cul-de-sac along the upper left-hand corner of the area for a total of 46 single-family lots. The areas shown in gray are some dashed lines that are going to be part of the eventual road design of the area that would resolve the overlength cul-de-sac for these areas in here once this road is built to provide an additional point of ingress and egress into the subdivision. And that's shown for informational purposes. Again, these would be new streets. They are part of the planned development district. These are going to be private streets. These will not be dedicated to the city as right-of-way or maintenance. These areas shown in green are part of the private road area. The area shown in gray is proposed to be a public right-of-way. But again, the exception requests that you have in front of you this evening are for the areas shown in orange for the overlength cul-de-sacs. This does show an access easement to be able to knit together the proposed apartments through this area here for folks to be able to come back and forth. Mr. Mitchell, the applicant, is here this evening to be able to discuss the idea in greater detail about its marketing aspects. But the two exceptions that you have in front of you this evening, the River Hills Court is approximately 125 feet longer than the 500 linear feet allowed by the subdivision regulations. And the exceptions that you have to consider this evening is that once the original master plan was designed, the length of the cul-de-sac is necessary from the applicant's viewpoint to develop the westernmost area of this tract. And also that the applicant is requesting that the granting of this exception will not be detrimental to any of the health, safety, welfare, or injurious to the property in the area, and that no other land is developed in the area, and the client would complete the development of the west side of the property by the plat of Phase 3. And again, this evening, the cul-de-sac length of approximately 883 feet, which is 383 feet longer than what's allowed by the subdivision ordinance, essentially is also being controlled by the property owner, and those two exceptions reflect the very first one. The water lines, private wastewater lines, the sewer lines, and the private sewer lines are all going to be maintained by a homeowner association or a property owner association out there. They are not going to be maintained by the city. The plat will be required to show a sidewalk along one side of Country Lane Drive and Country View Lane, both shown as a collector with a 60-foot right-of-way, and then a 6-foot sidewalk, 6-foot wide sidewalk along Martin Luther King Drive, which is required by the subdivision regulations for an arterial drive or arterial design road. The staff is recommending approval of the revised preliminary plat that you have in front of you this evening, with the 2 exceptions requested by the applicant for the River Hills Court and the Pleasant Ridge Court, and they are all going to be part of a private street subdivision. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this at its last meeting on June the 4th, with those same 2 exceptions. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the council has, and the applicant is also here this evening to be able to answer any questions from the council.
Great, thank you, Mr. Dolan. Council, are there any questions that you have? Just this isn't a public hearing item, but Mr. Mitchell, is it anything you'd like to present this evening, or any clarifications you'd like to make? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Jones and council members. I'm Ken Mitchell with Country Lane Seniors Community. We are considering our plat tonight because we're growing, and that's a good thing. Do we have a little bitty picture first, a little small picture, I guess? After 3 years of planning, we're finally open, which is very, very good. That is, didn't show up too well, but that's our Country Lane Seniors Independent Living Community. And we're open for business, and the demand from seniors is far more than what I anticipated. We have over 300 seniors on our list that have requested apartment units here. And they come in every day with appointments. I've talked to many of them personally just to see what their situation is. And surprisingly, a lot of seniors live in apartments here. I didn't know that. And which that means that they don't have any accessibility features or meal service or transportation. So this campus is going to be a very, very good thing for the senior citizens in Temple. So I'm excited about the expansion. I have secured the money. Hopefully, I don't know how much it costs, but I want to extend the road all the way to Martin Luther King. We need the street extended. And this next phase, we're going to start on our duplexes. Do we have a few duplex pictures? But we have 46 lots in this preliminary plat. And this is one of our duplexes in McKinney. They sell for $160,000 to $180,000. 2-car garage. They're very, very nice, all accessible. Do we have one more picture, maybe? Good, and one more of maybe the inside, the next picture, just so you can see the custom finish skylights. The seniors can pick out the carpet, the cabinets, that will have walk-in showers, wide doorways, and we'll lower the cabinets because they generally like lower cabinets. But anyway, I think this will be very popular with the medical facilities that we have here. I'm excited about this, and I think this time next year, hopefully we'll have some seniors living in these duplexes. And this gives seniors a chance for home ownership, but they have no maintenance responsibilities. We take care of these just like apartments and cut their grass and trim their shrubs, and so it's really a good thing. And then on our plat, I don't know if you can get our plat back up there, but we have pad sites on the Dodge and Loop. There in the purple. We are also creating 2 pad sites for the care facilities, which would be Alzheimer's, dementia care, assisted living, and nursing care. And so we will have those pad sites ready for some company to come in and buy the land and start that. And of course, if you have your streets and utilities and it's all level and just ready to build, then you can get a lot of interest. And I've already talked to one company about assisted living. They've done a study, and they said the demand is very strong here in Temple. And so I think within 6 months or so, after we get these streets in, we'll have the care providers that will come in and take the frontage there. And then in the back part above the purple area, I would like to do maybe condominium type development for the higher income seniors, so that we will provide housing for everybody. Whether, if it's the little lady with $600 a month on Social Security, we have a place for her. And if it's someone with a lot of money, we have a place for them too. And I think that's very important. And with closing, I would like to express my appreciation to all of you, because you've worked with me for 3 years on this, and especially the staff. It's just expedited everything for us and been very, very good to work with. And if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them.
No, what I'd like to say, it's a pleasure to work with you too. And you have a service that's very much needed in this community, and I say thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell, one of the new streets that you have going, is that Country View?
Yes.
So that's expected to go in fairly soon, do you think?
Well, we're taking we'll be putting out the plans for bids in the next 3 weeks. And I would say that we want to start when it's hot and dry, probably August. We don't want to start in October, November. So I anticipate it would take 3 or 4 months to build that street. And hopefully by October, when the rains come, that we'll have that street in.
The rains are already here.
The rains are here, aren't they? But that street is very, very important because of access, because you don't want so many people living with just one entry, and so we'll have good access from Martin Luther King and the Loop.
Yeah, well, I know right now coming down State Highway 36, and they've recently put the barricades up so there's no crossing over, so you're going down, looping back to get into the entryway. And, and it would be nice to go down and be able to use the light to make a left-hand turn and come in that direction.
That's right.
As well as, come out and use the light even with the access, particularly for those seniors who are driving. And, give them a little bit more element of safety. So, okay, great.
Any more questions?
Council, anything else? We appreciate all you've done and look forward to the continued growth and expansion of Country Lane Seniors.
Thank you very much.
Council, if there are no other comments or questions, entertain a motion on item 13.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second for the resolution authorizing the revised preliminary plat of the Country Lane addition. There's no further discussion.
Councilmember Jeter.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tyler.
Aye.
Councilmember Lennon.
Go District 2.
Is that in your district?
I believe so.
It isn't? Okay.
I mean, Mayor, have you realized she got a splash park or a sprinkle park, and now she's getting senior living? I mean, she's doing good.
Everything's happening on the east side. And a grocery store. Item 14 is consider adopting a resolution authorizing the final plat of Wildflower Court 2, an 11.37 acre, 7-lot commercial subdivision located at the northeast corner of Southeast H.K. Dodge and Loop and South General Bruce Drive, IH-35, subject to the applicant's requested exception to subdivision ordinance section 3392B pertaining to lot access to lot 4. Mr. Dolan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This area is going to be redeveloped into a planned shopping center, and you can see the outline of the property here along the Loop and General Bruce Drive service area. The site photos showing northeast and southwest corner of the property, also along the frontage road along the Loop, and then also along General Bruce Drive. So with the construction underway for those road improvements that's being planned to be part of the planned shopping center. This shows the east side of the property adjacent to Bird Creek. The black lines that you see in front of you this evening are shown on purpose. Those are the points of ingress and egress being planned for the subdivision. What you request in the exception this evening is that this lot 4 here at the back of the subdivision doesn't have lot access to a dedicated public right-of-way. And your subdivision ordinance requires that all lots have frontage or access, frontage onto a public right-of-way. Lot 4 doesn't, but it is knitted together by 2 access easements to be able to get you out to the public rights-of-way. The subdivision regulations that we have in front of us essentially consider, and it makes sense for a single-family subdivision, for each lot to be able to have frontage onto a dedicated street. A lot of shopping centers do not, and that's why you have the exception in front of you this evening, and both Planning and Zoning Commission and staff recommends approval of the exception request. Again, it shows the access areas to be able to get out to the two different roads. The red line is part of the normal TxDOT review process showing the non-access areas for the lots, and so they all have driveway frontage onto a dedicated public road. Here's the Lot 4 in question, and again, you've got the access easements being able to knit it together. When you reviewed the exception in front of you, you want to try to take a look at the nature of the proposed land use, any existing uses in the vicinity, the number of persons who work in the proposed subdivision, and any effects on traffic, public health, safety, convenience, and welfare in the vicinity. And again, you try to take at least 3 points into consideration, that if you granted the exception, you'll find a special circumstance associated with the property. The granting would not be detrimental to any of the health, safety, welfare of other properties in the area, and that it will not have the effect of preventing the orderly subdivision of the land in the area. The applicant submitted 3 points for its rationale, that the depth of the property makes it difficult to plat because of the limited number of driveways, and that it does contain 2 access easements to Lot 4, which link it to the driveway locations, and the whole area is planned as part of a shopping center. The recommendation from both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the staff was to recommend approval of the plat subject to those 2 exceptions, and they are included in the resolution that you have in front of you this evening. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the council has.
Great. Thank you, sir. Council, questions? No questions. We'll entertain a motion on item 14.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the resolution authorizing the final plat of Wildflower Court 2 with the exceptions as outlined. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Aye.
Councilmember Lennon.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. That concludes the agenda for this evening's meeting. Have a good evening.